consent items. I'll read out the title associated with the recommended motions printed on the agenda. Members of General Committee may ask that an item be held to discuss the matter further. If an item is not held, the motion is deemed to be approved on consent. No further discussion of the item will take place at General Committee and will go forward to the next City Council meeting for consideration. Reports of reference committee or advisory or special committees. 5.1, the report of the Community Safety Committee dated March 22nd, 2023, to be received. Councillor Morales, at this point, can I ask you for an overview of the matters that were discussed?
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Lehman. So the overviews at the Community Safety meeting for... I'm sorry. I was just told I did the thing.
You owe me a coffee. That's it.
I don't drink coffee, so you can have it. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So the overview for this meeting specifically was a presentation from the Fire Chief of Barrie Emergency Services. He overwent the expansion of Station 6 about basically how we station our trucks, how we do coverage, and kind of a wholesome approach to it. I don't believe there was any other presentations. Members of committee and non-committee asked a couple questions in terms of growth and cost and recruitment as well, and how we're an attractive fire service for applicants to apply. So this one was mostly presentations and staying consistent with what Council approved months ago about providing regular updates. I'll be providing updates on this committee when it's more than just presentations as well.
Thank you, Councillor. And we now have the report of the Affordability Committee dated March 22nd, 2023 to be received. Councillor Nixon, could you provide a little bit of an overview from that meeting?
Yes, I can. The meeting March 27th came to order at 6:05. We had all of the members of the Affordable Committee present, as well as 5 other councillors and 9 staff members. The main item on the agenda was a presentation by Tyler Coel of IPS regarding the application for zoning bylaw amendment 427, 429, 431, 435, and 447, 449, 451, 453, Yonge Street. And we had 8 citizens address the committee with their concerns and comments. And the matter was recommended to General Committee for consideration of receipt at its meeting held tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon, for the update with regards to the Affordability Committee. We will now move on to staff reports. We'll start with the zoning bylaw amendment for 303 Cundles Road East.
Hold, please.
It's held by Councillor Kungl. Next is the municipal street naming for streets in Harvey Road draft plan of subdivision Ward 6. That's approved. The zoning bylaw amendment application 181 Burton Avenue Ward 8. That's approved. The Gulfdale Road no parking anytime restrictions Ward 4. That's approved. The tax ratios, it's approved. A couple of Craigs breathed a sigh of relief there. The 2022 year-end development charge reports and treasurer's statement. That's approved. The 2022 year-end cash in lieu of parkland report and treasurer's statement. That's approved. The private tree bylaw and ecological offsetting review.
Hold, please.
It's held by Councillor Morales. Items for discussion, the invitation to present downtown Barrie Business Improvement Area. And that's approved. Okay, with no public meetings, presentations, or deferred business, We'll jump right into held reports. Councillor Kungl, we'll start with you. Could you put the motion on the floor, please?
Yes, I'll put the motion on the floor as presented. I have a couple of comments and then a few questions of staff. So specifically, this is regarding the development on 303 Cundles Road East. I'll start off by, one, thanking Ms. Katsemetry for the comprehensive report, but in addition, this one we had quite a bit of engagement from residents in the adjoining two towers at the junction, and then those in the north of Cundles. And so I do want to express my appreciation, the compliments from residents engaged in the process. While there have been several questions, have been highly appreciative of the very responsive and thorough feedback and follow-up given by the planner on the file, so thank you, Celeste. I won't go into too much detail. I do have a couple of questions, but I did want to just make it a point to make sure residents were aware that this is being discussed and should it be approved at General Committee, does come back on the 19th for ratification because of the holiday, so not next week, but the following week. I will point residents to this report as all of the questions were very well kind of resurfaced. I didn't see anything new from that was addressed as presented by the developer in the fall consultation. And I do want to thank the work and effort that staff and the developer did in collaboration in response to several questions. There were many changes made up front that I'm not needing to address tonight. I will comment on those briefly, but I think I'll start with, of the three buildings on this site, there was a change to the stacking of the stories. So rather than 3 10-story towers, it was modified to accommodate a bit more of a site view for the neighborhood. So the 12-story is the largest of the 3 towers near the 400. And I believe, if I may frame this in a question to Ms. Katsemetry, I know that the Ministry of Transportation is the authority around approving sound barriers. In Ward 3, more recently, we have seen the construction of one just a little bit north off the 400 towards Little Lake. This one has not been in the area, although a lot of questions coming from residents at the junction, especially those with balconies facing the 400, raised questions about when is it appropriate to be considered for sound barriers. I didn't know if with the potential approval of this development and a 12-story also being added in quite close proximity to the 400, if there's a process by which we can proactively engage the Ministry of Transportation, or does it sit within what's noted on page 14 under site plan control? It does identify through you that site plan control applications for this development includes satisfactory demonstrating an identified noise mitigation measures for transportation sources in 400. So I know there's some responsibility on the developer, be it around material or otherwise, but is there a way we could proactively re-engage the ministry, noting that this is a potential development with considerable density close to the 400?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. Thank you for the question. The Ministry of Transportation does leave it to the municipality and the private landowner to deal with the introduction of land use, in particular sensitive land use in proximity to the highway. That usually is done in accordance with provincial guidelines that outline warning clauses on title, construction measures that need to be implemented in the building. But I can say that the ministry has been very involved with the process. They have provided comments. We can certainly ask them to see whether or not they would evaluate whether or not barriers would be something they would consider through their new construction and design.
Should that be, in follow-up to that, then should this be ratified on the 19th? Do I need to potentially embed any type of direction to staff, or could that just be done in the course of this development having been then approved?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. The detailed design and how it integrates into the community and more specifically with the highway could be done through the site plan control process rather than zoning, and that can certainly be explored in the interim as well. The principle of land use isn't going to be impacted necessarily by whether or not the barriers are there, because other measures will need to be undertaken regardless.
Okay, thank you. I do have just a point of kind of confirmation. So while we looked at the different type of mixed units in this, and we still get questions, of course, about affordable housing, or is it geared towards seniors, and that was a historical question. And in the report, I know you've identified that, in particular, this developer has identified that the mixed units should accommodate different sizes of households, different levels of income, and basically be more attainable, as we don't have a requirement to fulfill affordable housing units. On that note, my understanding is this has been framed as a condominium, but at this time, is there any other detail tied to rental units and or how this actually will be marketed?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. I do not have any additional details from the applicant with regards to either the tenure, whether it will be rental, condominium, or the detailed interior design for how the units are going to work. We will be doing that through detailed review at site plan control, and they will have to come in for a pre-consultation as well. And we can certainly investigate those opportunities at that time.
Great, thank you. I think those are really the only ones, and that's not at all due in not having had a really thorough review of this historically, but also, again, in thanks to a very comprehensive response throughout the whole report about justifications to the act, to the review, and the consideration with what's being proposed tonight. So I think you've done me a great service with resident engagement about having fact-based information to point to. That's quite sound. So I appreciate that, because that is a significant change. Overall, for other members of council and the public, I would say I was quite pleased overall with what came back, that considerations were made on several accounts. And I know through conversations with the developer, ongoing work that will happen through the site plan control. But I did want to say, when we look at developments coming forward, if you're not familiar with 303 Cundles and proximity to the North Crossing commercial area, 2 other condo towers, and then to the north of Cundles, single detached homes with proximity to 3 schools, this is good infill. And so I know it's higher than what would have been liked, but I think it fits the measure of what we're looking for around development that also has gone through a significant review, but also utilizes existing infrastructure and services, and also does tend to lean towards mobilization and activation around our transit services in time. My only other point, I think, just for residents viewing, is that the outstanding question still that we've been exploring tied to this development, of course, is Cundles and traffic, and we really are talking about the behavior of drivers. And I know that near misses continue to get reported at, I would say, a high volume of concern, and I take that to heart, and I'm paying attention to that. And so while I just want to make note, through the traffic study, it is not warranted that we're looking at any type of traffic calming infrastructure to be added. I respect that in the findings. I am meeting with staff this month and traffic services and Barrie Police to continue to explore how might we continue to pay attention to safety of the neighborhood, but also traffic calming measures. So I want to thank residents who have been very active and consistently diligent about identifying concerns, especially those around the intersection of Cundles and Pacific. In addition to that, I'm hoping to explore with traffic services the timing of our red light camera program coming back. I believe we did fund 2. I'm not aware that we've identified locations yet, but I'm hoping to see if that program does create revenue, how we might be able to expand it, and how we might be able to look at Cundles as a unique area, and what data is needed to justify some type of red light camera in that vicinity. So thank you again to staff. Thank you again to residents that engaged with me on this and attended the meetings. And I was actually quite pleased with the structure and even the attention to, I think 40% is even being focused on this site being landscaped. So I think it'll be a beautiful end product. that I'm quite confident in.
Thank you, Councillor Kungl. No other questions or comments? I do have two quick questions that I'd like to ask. With regards to Cundles East, there is one of the scariest places in the city of Barrie for drivers and pedestrians at the corner of St. Vincent and Cundles East, where you have a lane actually ending but after the intersection. If you're going west, I'm not sure if it's west or north, but if you're going, I guess, west from this development through the intersection, on the far side of the intersection, the lane just ends. And it creates a really, really, really scary situation inside of that intersection, as well as on both sides, because drivers are accelerating. So you're going to add more traffic, hundreds more vehicles, and this area is actually building up overall. It seems like it's something that's been left over from a long time ago that just has never been dealt with. Is there any, I know the traffic plans and studies in this probably wouldn't encompass it because it's a little outside of the direct neighborhood, but is that something that could be looked at as well? Just as you were speaking there about traffic, about density and height and all of that stuff, it kind of just reminded me from a conversation or 10 I had during the election at that intersection.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to you. Sorry, apologies. It's late. I can certainly bring that up with our transportation planning staff to see whether or not it's being addressed in the new master plan for the transportation activity in that area. You're correct that it probably is outside of the spectrum of what was done for the TIS for this particular development, but there are lots of developments in that area. So I can certainly bring that up with the team.
Thank you. And also, I just wanted to, I mean, this isn't a question, this is actually a statement. You know, when we're looking at this corridor, we've seen, you know, you've got entertainment, you have grocery, there's restaurants, there's an ability, if safe enough, to be able to walk to these types of items. And so I really do like the idea that if we're going to have infill, this is where to do it. But if we're going to have infill, we need to make sure it's a safe driving and pedestrian environment. And I don't always feel that way. You know, Pacific, Livingston, St. Vincent, Georgian, between Georgian Drive and Jamie Massey Way, there's a lot of risk there. And so over time, hopefully, we can mitigate some of that. And I think I confessed a couple weeks ago to riding my kids around there on the bike, and it is a really it's an area that needs some attention. Anyways, with other questions or comments, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, and it's approved. Our next and final item to discuss this evening is the private tree bylaw and ecological offsetting review, and that was held by Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to let Councillor Harris go first. He was the one that actually moved the motion. He's the one that had a lot of the concerns that kind of originated this. So I just, out of respect, I want to let him go first. I just was a little jumpy, and I do have an amendment, but I'd rather him kind of guide the tone of the conversation because, again, while there's trees in the whole city, it's kind of started in Ward 8, so if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and thank you, Councillor Morales. So I have put that on the floor as printed, and I have an amendment. And the amendment to amend the following paragraphs in Appendix A to Staff Report OPR 001-23. I apologize, there's a lot. So first, to delete and replace paragraph 1E with the following. 1E, certified arborist means a person who is a specialist or expert in the area of the care and maintenance of trees and includes a graduate of a post-secondary education in arboriculture, qualified by Skilled Trades Ontario, or a certified arborist qualified by the International Society of Arboriculture, a consulting arborist registered with the American Society of Consulting Arborists, a registered professional forester, or a person with other similar qualifications as approved by the director. And to delete and replace paragraph 5C with the following. 5C, every application be accompanied by a report from either a landscape architect, registered professional forester, or certified arborist providing such information with respect to the property as may be specified in the tree protection manual, and certifying that the injury or destruction of trees is required to permit the establishment of extension of a use permitted by zoning bylaw, and there is no reasonable alternative to injury or destruction of the tree or trees, or a registered professional forester providing such information with respect to the woodlot as may be specified in the tree protection manual, and, if applicable, certifying that the proposed injury to or destruction of the trees is in accordance with good forestry practice. To delete paragraph 6A and replace with the following. 6A, subject to paragraph 6B, the director may issue a permit to injure or destroy trees where the director is satisfied that. And then to delete paragraph 6B, 2, and replace with the following. 6B, as a report as required by paragraph 5C has not been submitted or does not meet the minimum specifications as outlined with the tree protection manual. To delete paragraph 7A and replace with the following. 7A, marking of trees at least 7 days prior to injuring or destroying any tree, but not prior to the issuance of the permit. The owner shall cause all trees which are to be removed or destroyed to be marked by a registered professional forester, certified arborist, qualified forest technician, or landscape architect with clearly visible marks of yellow paint at breast height and upon the stump to remain after cutting. To delete paragraph 7C2 and replace with the following. 7C2, the owner shall cause the installation of all tree preservation measures to be completed under the supervision of the landscape architect, registered professional forester, or certified arborist and approved by the City of Barrie. Such measures shall be inspected on a regular basis by the landscape architect, registered professional forester, or certified arborist, and a bi-monthly report made to the director for the duration of the active period of construction. To delete paragraph 7E2 and replace with the following. 72, prior to the commencement of any work that would result in injury or destruction of trees authorized pursuant to this bylaw, the person causing such work to be carried out shall ensure that the permit is posted in a conspicuous place on the property or is available on site and can be produced upon request by an officer. The failure to post or produce a permit as required shall constitute an offense. And getting near the end, to reference Schedule A instead of Schedule B and designation of officers A. To reference Schedule B instead of Schedule C in Sections 12A. To reference Section 12, Subsection A instead of Section B, Subsection B in paragraph 12E. 12E, Subsection A. To reference Schedules A, B in Section 15A instead of AC. B, to delete Schedule A, information included in the tree protection manual, to rename Schedule B to A and Schedule C to B. And I think that we may have it. And of course, I can speak to that in great detail.
Councillor Harris, now I have your notes. Could you please repeat that so I know that you know what you're talking about? No, you go ahead. It's on the floor.
Thank you. So, thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and thank you, staff. These were items, I've lost them now because Mayor Nuttall has them, but were items that were brought forward as cleanup and with some of the consultation that's happened over the last week. So, again, thank you, staff, for all the work that's gone into putting this work together. And yes, some of the roots of this, pun intended, we're from Ward 8 and some of the challenges associated really directly with some of the efforts to increase housing stock, but the secondary detached dwellings really did pose some challenges for trees. And in neighborhoods, and I know Councilor Riepma, in mature neighborhoods, we have mature trees and we have big yards, and they make themselves in conflict sometimes when you're trying to do new things like secondary detached dwellings. And unfortunately, some wonderful trees in the effort to increase housing were damaged, and this is going to help us. We've, as noted, I think earlier tonight, there's been some changes to our bylaws around secondary attached dwellings and also now around trees. So hopefully we've done some good work to clean up this situation and make things better for our tree canopy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris, and thank you for taking this on. I think to the very fact that this is coming on the floor is actually much of it is just democracy at work and folks paying attention to what's coming through council and then highlighting some potential issues that we're able to address up front. So thank you to, I think some of the folks are here. Thank you for bringing that forth. And thank you, Councillor Harris, for pushing it through behind the scenes here and getting all this prepared with our team. Is there any questions or comments with regards, Councillor Kungl, with regards to the amendment that's on the floor right now?
Specific to the amendment on the floor, I just want to thank staff because I think a lot of this came through engagement with residents that were concerned about just some housekeeping tied to how we saw arborists as qualified and certified within the role. So I do want to thank the very quick way in which staff acknowledged and addressed that and engaged to actually land some of these very comprehensive changes on tonight's floor. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Kungl. Are there any other comments or questions with regards to the amendment that's on the floor to the main motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? And it carries. So now the main motion as amended. Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. My amendment that I'm putting on the floor as read out loud is to amend the following paragraph in Appendix A in staff report OPR 001-23 to delete paragraph 4K and replace it with the following. The injuring or destruction of trees undertaken for the purpose of property maintenance under the advice of a landscape architect, registered professional forester, qualified forest technician, or certified arborist that is exclusive of any activity related to construction, development, or woodland management, subject to the owner retaining a copy of the advice for a period of no less than 1 year. And I can speak to that quickly.
Councillor, the floor is yours on the amendment.
Perfect. So as read and put on the floor, I was consulting with staff that were very helpful today, by the way, and I want to highlight how incredibly helpful they were with this. I just saw scenarios. You always have to think of those kind of friction points, and maybe somebody was away for a couple months, they come back, they see a tree's gone, and they might have questions, but this one specifically speaks to trees that are dead or sick, in which case they don't need permits. All they would need is that letter and that opinion from those qualified individuals. So I just wanted to make sure that it is clear in our bylaw that just the homeowner should keep it. So if there's ever any follow-up and the city does just knock and say, hey, I know you never had to apply or you had to pay, but can you just show us that? I don't want someone saying, well, you never told me to keep it. The bylaw was ambiguous. So it was staff that kind of recommended the 1 year. I floated 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year, what is reasonable. And now it's just tightening up some language and not creating ambiguous situations.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Morales. Are there any other questions or comments with regards to Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I just want to touch on one point that was just mentioned about it being a fairly economical thing. I think this actually goes the opposite direction for this. This is actually going to cost homeowners significantly when you look at, so I actually reached out to a company just to see how much it would cost to have an arborist come by and look at a tree, and I was told it was anywhere between $800 to at least $1,200. So regardless of a permit fee, a resident would be into it for $800 to $1,200. I struggle with this. I know the principle behind it. It's been an issue in more of our mature areas of our city, especially with these detached dwellings that were in the backyards. But in the end, this kind of goes against our Lean Six Sigma process that we adopted during the last council, and it's creating a much more convoluted process. And according to the staff report, we've only had issues or permits averaging about 15 per year, and we're creating a huge process now in regards to those 15 permits. And on top of that, 2 new staff positions. that are going to be north of $200,000. So I struggle with it. I understand the principles behind it, but I will support it tonight. I will follow up further with staff. I know many of you have been forwarded the answers to the questions that I've been sending through, but I do struggle with this because it really does go against the Lean Six Sigma approach that we're supposed to be using in the city. Definitely when it comes to the clearing of treed lots and all that, that's pretty clear cut. No issues with that. and we know that that's going to be an issue in my ward, for instance, because of the new development in the Salem area. But I just wanted to kind of shed some light on the fact that this is actually going to cost our homeowners. It's not going to save our homeowners. It might stop some of the turmoil when it comes to these tree issues, but in the end, it will cause our homeowners to have to pay at least $800 to $1,200 to have this issue resolved when it comes up. So I'll leave my comments at that. I will support it tonight, and I'll follow up further with staff before this gets final approval in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Morales.
Super quickly, Mayor Nuttall, thank you, Councillor Harvey, for your comments. I agree with a lot of what you said. My amendment is just to put in the word 1 year. However, if by the time it gets to council, maybe we just wait, do exactly what you said and take away the cost, I could be supportive of that. So I just want to reiterate, my amendment isn't to support that requirement for dead trees. It was just clarifying language about the 1 year. But I like at least the discussion that you're alluding to. So maybe we can have a conversation by the time it gets to council.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing no other questions or comments to the amendment, all those in favor? It carries. Are there any other questions or comments with regards to the main motion now? We'll go around the table. Councillor Rittma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I, too, want to compliment staff. They have put up with a lot of my questions and answered them very well. So thank you for that. I just have one question now, and that is, in the recommended motion, item number 5, the staff are going to form a tree bylaw standards subcommittee. One of the issues that we have here in Barrie is that we plant trees, and 5 years later they're struggling to survive, and 6 years later they're dead. And that is a terrible waste of time and money and energy. And it seems to me that, and from what I've been told, there are a couple of things. One of them has to do with how we plant them. I heard it was green side up, but it's how we plant them. And then secondly, how we maintain them in terms of watering and fertilizing them and eventually pruning them. So my question is it the intent of this committee to develop a standard in terms of how we plant and maintain and prune our trees? And if that's the case, I'm delighted with that. And if it isn't the case, I would like to have that added.
Through Mayor Nuttall to Councillor Rietma, yes, I think the intention of that committee would be to look at all of our standards across the board. So everything to do with tree protection, construction standards, everything to do with tree maintenance, and of course, tree planting.
That comforts me greatly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rittma. And now we'll go to Councillor Kungl, and then we'll go to Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, perhaps if appropriate, to staff, maybe on the heels of Councillor Rietma's question, with respects to, I think, what was referred to as the construction or the planting of trees, would it also consider how soil is compacted? So I know Active Transportation and Sustainability talked quite a bit about this on the heels of what Councillor Harris was seeing actively happening in his ward around a tree bylaw, but in particular to that around the quality of the trees, but also not just kind of taking care of them after they're planted and having ambassadors at a resident level, but in general, a recognition that when we're compacting the soil and development, that has an impact actually on the health and well-being long term of a tree. So I didn't know if that actually would be considered as part of what's being looked at around conditions around development.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungle, yes, that I think would be very important. We've always had the thoughts that soil conservation is more important than tree conservation in the long run, because if you have the right soil, you can grow any tree. So it's important to conserve that healthy soil in an uncompacted state, and I think that would be something that would be important to include in that review.
Great, thank you. I do have some comments, and it's more from just a reflection of what's being presented and as the bylaw has come forward. And again, want to thank staff. It's quite comprehensive. It took me a little bit to digest it and make sure I wasn't making some assumptions, so I appreciate the time staff gave me to seek clarity. What I really like about the approach to this is that the 2 full-time positions being asked for are being fully funded through the program. So the ecologist is being fully funded around the approach, around the reserve, and then the forester fully funded through the offset, and then the tree permit fees. I did have questions of staff to clarify what exactly do residents, how are they impacted, how is this understood? The bylaw talks a bit about the definition of a tree in this, and so I had concerns that I didn't see a diameter. What I appreciated learning and that eased some of my concerns about at what cost does this come to residents is we're talking about trees that are 4.5 meters in height in the existing bylaw that would be maintained. So we're really talking about 15-foot trees. So that was helpful to me around saying a tree is not just a tree. If I'm looking at my property and saying I want to move a tree, or I know I've got a situation happening where it's clearly diseased, I can remove it without having to seek an arborist or go through a permit expense. So I like the consideration in that and the review of other municipalities in this. In particular, my understanding of the program overall, although of course it comes at a price tag, does absolutely not come at a price tag from at least a request through the budget and taxpayer dollars, although it does create a process from a permitting. I was happy to see a lot of the focus on bylaw and education as a component of this around resident engagement. And I believe some of the studies even talked about how little residents even knew about an existing tree bylaw. So I'm looking forward to hearing more should this proceed around ongoing engagement and education. Further, I was really pleased to see the acknowledgement about the impact of the loss of revenue through Bill 23 being acknowledged through the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority. But the projected revenue out of this program would actually allow us to do grants. So we can actually do infill and we can have more direction about how and where funding is spent within our city, maybe broader than what LSRA historically had. So not happy that that change happened for LSRA, but I was impressed about the approach staff took to actually look at how do we replace a mechanism that we've lost around being able to build out our canopy. And just for a point of reference, we were very deliberate through both council and then before that, the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee, engaging staff in setting stretch targets around growing our canopy across the city. So we have intentionally identified the need to plant trees in a way which is, quality of tree, sustainability of tree, and that will come at a cost. So I like that there is a grant system built into this and a cost recovery for that actual intention. So I fully support this.
Thank you, and Deputy Mayor. Oh, Councilor Corser, would you like to add?
Yes, I understand that the only applicable cost to a homeowner would be a professional opinion that would be needed to have a tree that is dead or causing a hazard or destruction to power lines or structures. The only cost to the homeowner would be to have a professional come in and basically say, yes, it's dangerous, or yes, it's dead. And there would not be an added permit fee to that. My concern is I understand that this is new I could be corrected on this, that this is a new add to the rules that are already in place. So my concern is that if somebody is cost prohibitive, that they do not have the tree removed because they do not are able to afford the professional opinion of one of the certified people outlined, and then the tree is not removed under that situation, and now you have a danger to power lines or structures because somebody can't afford to have a professional come in and certify it dead or dangerous. Talking in circles, it is a late night.
Thank you. And would you like to ask staff about that?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. So I'm wondering if, through you, Mayor Nuttall, I'm not sure, Bala, I believe, or maybe this is to, I'm not sure who I'm directing this to, but is there any way that in certain situations, in financial situations, that this kind of can be assisted with the cost of having the tree certified as dead or dangerous?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Courser, I'll defer this question to Kevin Rankin, and as I think he's more knowledgeable on the costs associated with such an opinion and how the city staff may handle this situation.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Courser. Yeah, there'd be situations, I think, where we'd run into a resident just doesn't know what to do with the tree or is not sure if the status of the tree or thinks it's a risk. That's some of the responsibilities at urban forester position, that they would be able to go out and provide that advice, in those situations. In most situations, currently right now and probably to the future, is we would, direct them to contact one of the certified arborist companies who'd come in and probably give them an estimate for price to remove the tree. So that company, who is the certified arborist, who would provide a price, would be doing that advice with that price as far as their estimate. So if the situation is that it is a tree that needs to be removed, that advice would come as part of that estimate for what it would cost to remove it.
And, and at this point in time, there is no program or system that they can get financial assistance with removing that tree going forward? Because I understand this will be an added cost going forward.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Courser, I would see that the cost wouldn't really change today in that example. With the proposed bylaw, because you'd still have the situation if the tree is hazardous and causing a problem, or it's risk of coming down, it's still going to need a professional to take it down.
Through you, Mayor, but if somebody can remove their own tree on their own property, which you are allowed to do, as my understanding, then they wouldn't have to pay for somebody to come and remove that tree. Right?
In that situation, that's correct. So the change would be there is that somebody would provide them the advice that, yes, that tree needs to be removed. So if a person contacted the city currently and they asked, I've got this tree, I think it's a hazard, can you look at it? That might be those situations where the urban forester would go out and say, well, if you're capable of doing this, maybe it's a small little tree that's dead, it's not that large. If it's something that's large and is near a power line, they would obviously give them the advice that, contact a company that's certified and insured and knows how to do those kind of dangerous removals.
Well, if again, if I may, so if, say for example, I have a large yard, I have a big dead tree, I have very limited income, and the tree is obviously dead and obviously needs to come down, and if it's going to come down some way, hopefully in a safe manner, I would now, as opposed to cutting down the tree, I now would have to secure a professional opinion and then pay for that professional opinion for me to remove that tree on my property. And so I'm just a little concerned about trees that are hazardous not being removed because of that extra step that's been put in place. I'm all for protecting trees. That's not what I'm speaking to at all. I'm speaking to trees that need to come down, that people financially cannot have that extra cost in play.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, I think those would be the situations where the staff person would go out and a dead tree is not something that someone has to do a full arboriculture assessment of it or hazard tree assessment. It's dead. It's pretty obvious. That's the advice that would fit the bylaw requirement. You've gotten advice from a professional to remove the tree, and if they can safely do it themselves, then that's their option.
But you would have to have that certification or that statement and you'd keep it as for a year to say that you had, if some neighbor or somebody complained that that tree came down, then you would have to have still that piece of paper that you paid somebody to come and tell you it was dead.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, I think if the city employee went out and saw that situation, they would deal with it the same as they would in a property standards complaint.
Okay.
So currently now, if someone has a dead property and another neighbor complains or puts in a complaint, then one of the city arborists goes out and looks at that tree and provides a written advice.
Okay.
So we would still have that same situation where we could go out there and do that under this program and say, yes, you're right, that's something that needs to come down, and provide them the written advice. They could keep it in their files for a year or so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, if I can maybe pick up where Councillor Corser just left off. So Councillor Corser, I think those are very, very, very good questions. I actually don't really enjoy bylaws that create gaps, in the sense that if we get a call from somebody who's in one income level, who say that they can't afford it, then staff are going to go out and provide some advice. But if you get a call from somebody at a different income level, they go to an arborist. I'm not sure that that's a fair level playing field, quite frankly. And I'm not sure that the public would buy into that. So I think you have a very, very good point, Councillor Corser. I'm not sure what the answer is on the fly right now. But perhaps we could have a follow-up. We have 2 weeks between General Committee and City Council, and I would love to join you in that if you'd allow me to, in working through that.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was just something that I thought of as seniors and people like, that just don't have that money, and to keep that safe. Like, don't want anyone's power lines coming down and nothing going through anyone's roof.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure. Okay, so I think that maybe if we can have a follow-up on that, Mr. Rankin-Knight, Councillor Harvey, is it on this? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Actually, it was just in relation to the comments about the tree coming down on power lines or coming down on someone's shed or house or whatever. And members of council may or may not know, and the only reason I do know this is because it actually happened to a friend of mine, where his mother's very mature tree in the city of Toronto came down on the neighbor's shed and totally demolished the thing. And when they called their insurance company, they were told, not our problem, tell your neighbor to call his insurance company. So it actually does have a negative impact on the bordering neighbors too, when you have these issues. So it becomes a little more complicated than as simplistic as we would like to see, and obviously it's a good highlight here when it comes to economic levels, because we've got a lot of seniors in our community too that would live in these mature areas where a higher likelihood of a tree having some disease issues, and they just may not have the financial wherewithal to be able to follow this bylaw as it's being proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey, and you went exactly where I was thinking, which is, it's one thing if somebody accepts the risk on their own property, but the problem with trees is they don't respect property lines. And so you end up with, and that's actually what started this whole investigation in Ward 8. So thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. This is kind of more of a comment. When we first got this, I phoned Mr. Aranjasan, and I was like, this makes no sense. This is way too technical. This is creating more red tape and stuff. And then thank you to staff and Mr. Rankin for going through it with, members of the public and, phone calls and emails and stuff. But I just don't want, and look, all the concerns raised on the personal and the private tree, but like, this is a really good win story for Barrie. Like, we lost, to Councillor Kungle's point, the ability, with Bill 23, but, Mayor Nuttall actually was the one who introduced this to be a Barrie solution, where we were able to reduce the cost to developers, which helps with the cost of development, and then plant all the trees back in Barrie on our shores that we're going to, like shore up our stormwater ponds and stuff, because the more vegetation you can put around banks and streams, it secures the ground from erosion. So this is where I just don't want this to get lost in the media and stuff. This is actually a very good story. And, I appreciate the report now. When I first read it, I didn't. It was really technical, but now going through all the stuff, it was needed. So I just, I don't want it to get lost that this is a great story. We're going to plant a lot more trees that we had no control over in our own backyards and, in our program. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. And if I can expand on that, through what staff's put together here, through what our public servants have done, is protect the city of Barrie. Not just protect the city of Barrie, actually enhance what we get here in the city of Barrie. If you think about the idea that there's an institution called the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, who, when it comes to the replacement policy, have been removed from the process. It was very easy for us to sit around the table and for our public servants to sit there and to complain, because we heard a lot of complaining. There are complaints related to Bill 23, there's no question. But they actually went to work and said, well, how do we turn this into an advantage for the city of Barrie? How do we make this part of the Barrie Advantage? And through that, although it's really hard to see it in some of the technical language, this is going to provide for, right in the report, basically it's going to provide for trees to be able to be planted to increase canopy here in the city of Barrie, to beautify areas of the city of Barrie, which is maybe not the main benefit, but it's an ancillary benefit of some of the decisions that can be made. It's going to help protect fish habitat if we're planting down streams and creeks here in the city of Barrie. I remember the LSRCA had 12 years ago or 13 years ago, we did some plantings on the Hewitts Creek. We did them on Bunkers. We did them on Kitts Creek, Sunnydale Park. These are things that we will now have control over, and we don't have them happen once a year or once every 5 years. We have them happen all of the time. And the final one, which is talked about in here, the very start of this, we will have a report back later, is the idea that we will have so many trees that private citizens are going to be able to ask us for free trees, essentially. Like, name another municipality that you can be like, hey, I want a tree. There isn't one, right? And so we have all these enhancements for the residents of Barrie, whether it's environmentally, whether it's beautification, a welcoming environment, my personal private property to be enhanced in terms of trees. And at the same time, there's a 60% reduction in cost. That's unheard of. That's the thing that they say you can't do. But you know what? I can't remember who said it. It might be Michael Ignatieff, and I'll probably get in trouble for quoting this. I think he said something about politics is the art of the possible. And in this sense, it was. On a very, very, very minuscule level, this is a very, very, very good thing brought forward by our public servants. So, Mr. Rankin and your entire team, everyone who's been involved in this, I just want to say thank you, because you put a lot of work into it. You communicated in a way that I don't understand, but you achieved what I would have hoped. What I would have hoped would be achieved. in 2 weeks, if we pass this as is with relation to the individual properties and taking down a single tree, I got to be honest with you folks, I think we're going to talk about it again in 12 or 24 months and go, we're getting some heat on this, right? Which isn't necessarily totally a bad thing if we have to make some adjustments at a later date. Overall, we have applications coming in for the development area and the annexation lands for development here in the city of Barrie. And those development applications, I can think of one right now over at Salem and ESSA area, they're going to bring in millions of dollars to be invested in Barrie, not outside of Barrie. And that is a very, very, very good news story. And I'll stop there because, I didn't think, if you'd asked me 6 months ago during the election if I could talk for an hour about trees, I probably would have said no. I'm really, really happy with this. So, Michael, if you can make sure if anyone's not here this evening that they do get recognized and thanked for the work on this. I think it's something that the rest of the province will actually start to copy us on. So thank you. With that, if there's no other comments, unless somebody could speak about trees longer than I can, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? And it's approved. That completes the staff reports for this evening, and I'll just jump back to the notes here, if that's okay, if everyone can give me a moment. We're going to move on past the information items into inquiries. Deputy Mayor Thompson, do you have any inquiries?
I have none, thank you.
You have no inquiries this evening? Any other inquiries for anyone around the table? Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. Councillor Kungl.
It is a Walk With Me Wednesday. So thanks to those who logged about 4K in the mall, and we're going to start taking it outside. So if you're interested in meeting up with me, just let me know or follow me on Councillor Kungl on the Facebook page, and I'll post where I'm at on Wednesday mornings in the ward and in some of our green spaces. I do have a couple of other announcements, some just notes of thanks, but I had the benefit of touring the water treatment plant, so I want to thank Diane, Mark, and Dave for arranging that, but also what a brilliant place to tour, and didn't really realize that that was an open to public option, so would encourage schools and residents, if you're interested. Not only is our report around the quality of our water impressive, but the technology being used is pretty amazing and state of the art. So it was great to see the inside of the water treatment facility. A couple of other announcements specific to developments in Ward 3. So recently posted on the City of Barrie website is a neighborhood meeting for May the 2nd, and it is specific to 290 Cundles Street East, so another development in the vicinity. So lots of movement happening there. It's proposed to be 20 townhouse. Please take a look. The meeting is in the evening by Zoom. You need to register in advance to get the link. If you've got any questions, just reach out to me. But that is a new proposed development. It's a neighborhood meeting, so no decisions, but you get to hear the concept being proposed forward. Also, I'm assuming Mayor Nuttall will speak to Spring Into Clean and some activities happening for Ward 3 residents and schools. If you put in teams and you're active in the area, let me know. I've got draw prizes for residents getting engaged in doing that spring clean for day passes to the East Bayfield Rec Center. So let me know if that's an area of interest. And if you are looking at different areas you're noticing litter, let me know. We'll be starting Trash Formation Tuesdays in May and back out, continuing to do the cleanup after the Spring Into Clean. And I think that is, last one, dare I say, backyard hens. I think I've gotten a reputation about chickens, but I'm still getting lots of questions about the status of backyard hens. So I know staff have done quite a bit of work. The comprehensive zoning bylaw is publicly posted. So I want to just point residents who are still asking about what's the status. My understanding is there have been changes to the comprehensive zoning bylaw. You can find information there. That is step one, to my understanding. Step two is if we ever wanted to consider a pilot for backyard hens, which was a historical resident engagement a couple years back, we would have to change the animal control bylaw. So just to be really clear, the comprehensive zoning bylaw changes do not necessarily permit us to move into that direction. There will be other steps needed, but do take a look at that bylaw posted on the City of Barrie website.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. Are there any other announcements? Councillor Reitman, I did see you before. I apologize. And then Councillor Corser.
Yeah, this is just for residents of Ward 1 on April the 23rd, 2 in the afternoon till 4 at the Parkview Center. The mayor and I are going to be there to host a town hall meeting, and you're all welcome to attend and ask your questions or provide your comments. So everybody's welcome in Ward 1.
Thank you, Councillor Reitman. Councillor Corser.
Okay, this is a save the date for Maternal Mental Health Day on Wednesday, May 3rd. Join me at the second annual Flora's Walk in support of Canadian Perinatal Mental Health Collaborative, a nonprofit organization working to remove the stigma, fear, and judgment, isolation, and lack of resources that contribute to many parents suffering from postpartum depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues while pregnant and caring for a baby. So that is the second annual Flora's Walk, and that's Wednesday, May 3rd, which is the World Maternal Mental Health Day, and we're meeting at Meridian Place downtown at 11:30 a.m. To find out more, to join us, you can check out my Facebook page, Amy Corser, Ward 4 Councillor, or their website, which is Flora's Walk, FLORASWalk.ca/team-Barrie. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Councillor Harris.
Mayor Nuttall, is the consultation for the Performing Arts Centre on your list of announcements? I will defer to you if it is, but if not, I'll go ahead. Maybe I'll go ahead. Okay. Those of you who follow closely will probably have noticed on our circulation list there was a Performing Arts Centre update, and the important note for that for this evening is details of an open house. So there will be upcoming community engagement open houses scheduled at the Peggy Hill Center, Community Center at 171 Mapleton Avenue on Wednesday, April 19th from 4 to 7 p.m. and Thursday, April 20th from 4 to 7 p.m. as well. So for those of you interested and excited about the Performing Arts Center and where it's going, please, hopefully you can make it out to hear about the thoughts and to share your opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Any other announcements this evening? Seeing none, I'll jump into my own. Before I do, I just wanted to maybe give a little bit of an announcement on the visit we had with Minister Hussein on Monday. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to talk about some of the intergovernmental relations things that are happening, and I think this is one that we do get to. So in the morning, we had the opportunity to sit down in office and discuss some of the issues that are facing Canada, facing Ontario, and facing the City of Barrie in terms of housing, and some of the announcements of funding that are coming down from the federal government. So we do have some of the information, and we do have our staff in some technical briefings this week with regards to a new $4 billion fund that's been announced. And some of the things that I was really encouraged at that portion of the meeting was with regards to Infrastructure Canada and housing. So in the past, governments work in silo and departments work in silo. And I was really encouraged to hear that infrastructure will be working hand in glove with housing to allow municipalities to be able to make applications, and part of the criteria for the applications to infrastructure will be the housing coming online and what the return on investment is for housing. So I think that's a great thing for a place like the City of Barrie, where we have very, we can show what the ROI is in terms of housing when we're putting applications forward. The conversation went so well with our federal counterparts that CAO Prowse and I met up later on that day with Minister Hussein again, and we toured around a little bit around the GO train station in Allendale, also up and down Essa Road, and CAO Prowse had some examples of some of the development that is being proposed in that area, and quite frankly right across the city. And I just want to highlight. We say the province. You know, the gentleman said that tonight in the public meeting in the Affordability Committee with regards to the provinces pressuring the city and every city to intensify, right? Higher densities and all those items. The message was no different from the federal government. The minister, you know, one of the things that we talked about was where there's 20-story buildings, well, why not 40? You know, those are the conversations that are being started with the city of Barrie. And I think that I wanted to take the opportunity to share that with you and share that with the public, because these are real conversations that are affecting real lives, in the sense we heard that earlier with regards to Ward 8 and Ward 7. Less Ward 7, actually, but Ward 8. And the pressure is real. And the communication is that there will be infrastructure dollars, there will be investments in capacity, there'll be investments in your public service to create faster ways to get housing approved, but they're attached to intensity and density. So I just wanted to communicate that. I think it was a very honest, clear conversation, and it's something that, you know, we need to recognize around the city of Barrie, that we are a child of the province, and the feds and the province are telling us the exact same thing. And I just wanted to report back on that. And if I have any other items that come out of that meeting, I'll certainly report them back as able. To the formal announcements, the City of Barrie is looking for feedback from members of the public concerning naming of the future Allendale Transit Mobility Hub, which will be located within the Barrie-Allendale area next to the existing railway. Members of the public can complete the survey at buildingbarrie.ca/mobility hub. For further information about the Allendale Transit Mobility Hub and Downtown Mini Hub projects, please visit barrie.ca/transit hubs project. Nominations are now open for the 5th Annual Mayor's Innovation Awards. These awards celebrate this year's most creative solutions from businesses and individuals and local community groups. This year's award theme is Beyond the New Normal. Nominations are open to Barrie businesses, organizations, and individuals from all sectors, stages, and sizes. The submission deadline is May 28th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. For further information or to submit a nomination, please visit investbarrie.ca/innovation awards. The City of Barrie is hosting an online rain barrel sale until April 30th, 2023. Rain barrels can be purchased by residents online at enviroworld.ca/Barrie. For further information, please visit barrie.ca/water conservation or call 705-726-4242. The City of Barrie is creating a new comprehensive zoning bylaw, which is designed to implement the vision and policies of Barrie's adopted official plan that is currently awaiting approval by the province. Visit buildingbarrie.ca/zoning to review the first draft document, share your input, and learn more. The deadline for feedback is April 28th. Spring has arrived, and it's now time to get outside and help clean up our community. Registration is now open for the City of Barrie's Spring Into Clean events, which take place April 21st to 23rd. Please register online at barrie.ca/springintoclean by April the 12th, 2023. The City of Barrie will be participating in the 2023 City Nature Challenge from April 28th to May 1st. This will be the city's first year participating in this international event, motivating people around the world to find and document wildlife in their communities. Community involvement is encouraged for this free program, and a kickoff activity is scheduled for April 28th at Sunnydale Park. For more information, please visit citynaturechallenge.org. The City of Barrie recreation facilities will be closed for programming on Friday, April 7th, except for the Ontario Minor Hockey Association Championship Tournament. All facilities will be open regular hours between April 8th to April 10th. The City is offering special Easter activities over the holiday weekend. All Easter offerings will operate as drop-in activities, and regular drop-in fees apply. For a list of activities, please visit barrie.ca/recfees. The City of Barrie is updating its affordable housing strategy and is launching a public consultation process that welcomes feedback from residents, potential homeowners, businesses, and developers. The City wants to hear why affordable housing is important to you and your experiences finding affordable housing in Barrie. This consultation supports Council's goal of making Barrie an affordable place to live. Throughout the project, there will be opportunities for the community to provide feedback, including a public survey, which will be available in late April. Public sessions and stakeholder meetings and an affordable housing symposium event are planned for May the 4th. National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, which runs from April 9th to April 15th, recognizes the crucial role that public safety telecommunicators play in emergency response. They're the first point of contact for those in distress, and their calm and collected responses can make all the difference in life and death situations. Friday, April 7th and Sunday, April 9th, there will be no Barrie Transit service. Transit will run regular weekday service on Monday, April 10th. Riders are encouraged to plan their transit trips using myridebarrie.ca. On Friday, April 7th, there will be no garbage, organics, recycling, or yard waste collection in Barrie. It will take place on the next day, Saturday instead. Collection will take place as usual on Monday, April 10th, and visit barrie.ca /curbside collection for more information. The next Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee and City Council meetings will be held on Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, as we will not have a meeting next Wednesday. With regards to circulation list for March 29th, 2023, do members of council or members of committee have any requests or questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the April 5th circulation list. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we've come to the beautiful time of the evening where we get to adjourn the meeting. So thank you, members of committee and members of staff, for all of your work this evening.